right. I believe that we are live. PGA DFS live before lock from Awesemo.com. It's the late show. Ben Rasa, Jason Rouslin. No power, no hurricane. We're all good. I am back in business. I'm excited to be on the show in full capacity. Thanks for carrying the load last week, man.
Yeah, no problem. Alex Awesemo Baker was here to join us, and man, he still got me laughing and smiling about his Brooks Koepka take at the end. I don't know if you happen to catch it at the end. His hot take was very simply, Brooks Koepka sucks. That's it. It's simple, and it ended up working out for him. The way he said it, though, was great. But yeah, happy to have you back as well. And we're also happy to have SuperDraft back, our sponsor of the show. I'm going to tell you a little bit about them. I'm like 4 for 4 in cashing in the last 4 weeks of SuperDraft. So I'm going to play a little bit more over there this week. The future of daily fantasy sports has arrived. Experience SuperDraft's exclusive game mode multiplier. Say goodbye to salary restrictions and hello to lineup freedom. Use your fantasy sports knowledge to draft any player you want. Build your very own dream team. This week it might get a little funky in terms of that dream team, but countless lineup possibilities let you experience daily fantasy sports the way you want. SuperDraft offering contests right now in NBA, MLB, PGA, NASCAR, and MMA, so you can enjoy the best of DFS all year round. Sign up for SuperDraft using promo code Awesemo10. Get $10 free on your first deposit of 10 or more, and $20 total free on your first deposit of 100 or more. Download in the App Store or play at superdraft.io. SuperDraft, no limits and more winning. So, and we're going to do a couple of segments here on SuperDraft here at the other end because I do like how they brought out the multiplier this week. Can find some good stuff. But we head on to the Wyndham Championship this week, where we've got some waves. We've got some withdrawals, but we don't have any weather. Thank goodness for that, dude. I'm really done with it. Whether it goes for you or against you, I'm just done with it.
Yeah, I think last week had many problems, but the one thing I was proud of, I went again. Everyone was AM, PM. I had my main team was a 5-man PM stack, and you know what? Shocking. It was no problem. The split was even. It's always overblown. We don't have to worry about that.
Even by me, I tend to overblow it at times.
So do I. It's hard to stare the wind finder in the face and think my guys are all going out in 25 miles an hour and the other guys get 0. But we don't have to worry about that. It's going to be beautiful. I think the course is pretty soft. It's going to be just a decimation. These guys are going to tear it apart.
Yeah, they really are, and that's a great segue into what we're going to talk about next. But before we do, let's talk about the waves just a little bit. Fun little thing going on from DraftKings this week as they enhance their partnership with PGA Tour. The more we see this, the more it's going to be better for people like us that are doing it. But if you do not have PGA Tour Live and you play in the $3 birdie this week on there, they're going to give you a code for 7 days free for that coverage. This week you're going to get featured groups, Justin Rose, Brooks Koepka, and Jordan Spieth. You're going to get to watch all 18 holes every shot, as well as Tommy Fleetwood, Jim Furyk, and Dylan Fratelli. In the PM, you're going to get JT Poston, Brandt Snedeker, Sergio Garcia, and Patrick Reed, Shane Lowry, and Paul Casey. So if you don't already have the product, which, Ben, I think you do, it's a pretty cool thing. I like the coverage, and they're going to be incorporating some betting odds, I guess, now.
It's great. I like to see them being, I don't want to say innovative, but, embracing it. Listen, we all know that betting is coming, whether states like it or not. Yep. You either get left behind or you adapt. They're starting to realize that. So get more people in the ecosystem. That can't be a bad thing. And listen, there's a ton of connections. We've done a ton on the site with Awesemo Odds and Odd Shopper to show you guys that. So it's a cool little feature they have. And I'll be watching early tomorrow back on the East Coast. I don't have to wait 3 hours, which I'm excited about as well.
Yeah, no time for lineup tinkering with tee time starting tomorrow morning at 7 a.m. So you got to love that. One question I had before we move on. Do you think it's important to tell people that Abraham Ancer and Lanto Griffin have withdrawn? Because I do. My dad, who plays like 25 cents a week, had Brendan Todd in there one week, and the week he withdrew. And he was just so sad about it because he didn't realize what the O meant next to his name. Now, of course, he knows what it means now. But I thought it'd be important to just bring it up for a second. Ancer and Griffin are withdraws.
Don't play them.
Yeah, please don't play them. Now, let's move on to Birdie Fest and Sedgefield Country Club. The first question I want to ask you, we know the winner is going to be close to -20, somewhere in that range. What's the one thing that you do differently knowing that going into the week?
So I definitely struggle. This is one of my big goals this year. I definitely, looking over my history, am much better in like majors, I don't want to say WGCs because that's non-cut. That's a whole different issue, but just tougher courses. The way I build, I think naturally I overrate around the green and I underrate these guys who just score at a ridiculous clip. So I've really made a cognizant effort this year to change up in events like this and go, I don't want to say just go purely for younger golfers, but some of these guys that come off the Korn Ferry Tour, I really believe that they just have a different mindset to attack. So streaks, bonuses. You really have to embrace the volatility because placement points just are not going to be that prevalent in the port. Like when you look at a guy's total score, his placement points will not account for nearly as much of that score as we saw even last week, which wasn't overly hard.
Yep. Yeah, totally agree. So it's a similar setup though, right? Par 70, 7,100 yards. Do you think that does benefit some of the golfers that played last week on this similar layout? I'm not going to say it's identical by any stretch because it's not, but by par and yardage, it is.
I think that, so you can look at it about two ways. One, it's obviously somewhat of a letdown spot and they have to fly across the country, but you can take a similar mindset. They go to Bermuda, which is different. I do think this course, we know what you need. You need irons. You need to make putts. There's a ton of comp courses out there. So if you want to throw Harding Park into that, I think you can pull some things. But I wasn't really searching for what Sedgefield Country Club was because we know. This isn't like last week. I didn't know what that course was going to do. I've never seen it. I've seen this course a lot. I know exactly what you need here. Now I just need to find players that can do it.
Can do it, right? And
well, that's the difficult part.
Webb, Simpson, and Brooks Koepka might be two of those players as they lead us off on the top. And Cody Tiger's not playing this week, or else I'd love to give you my thoughts on him, but we will see him back next week. In any case, we got 5 golfers above 10K this week. My theory right now is on Brooks Koepka is he's either going to win or he's going to miss the cut. And it's just the way I feel. He's played so many weeks in a row. We have not seen this with the best players out there. What do you make of that? Let's just talk about that for a second.
So I think if Brooks had a better Sunday, he wouldn't have. This is just speculation, but I don't think he would be here. I'm sure he's not thrilled at playing in the Wyndham. But honestly, the stats do kind of line up. He is striking it well with the irons. He hasn't made a ton of putts. He's clearly, you can debate where he falls, but everyone would say he's one of the best, if not the best player here. And now we're talking, this is where ownership becomes more important. So Webb Simpson clearly is going to be massively popular. He should be massively popular. But when you're talking about getting a significant discount to Brooks, it obviously is appealing. And I think a lot of people, including me, will start with him on lineups over Webb.
Yeah, I think that's probably what a lot of people will do if they don't want to go to Webb. For me, though, I like Patrick Reed. But before we talk about him, let's talk about the Englishman. Can they score enough to win in this type of tournament?
So that's the thing about, again, what I said earlier, and I'm not trying to overhaul what I do, but there are a lot of tournaments where I play what I view as the best golfers. And this is not that. This cut could be 5-6 under. Like, it really could. And I'll take Paul Casey as an example. Like, he's not someone I really think of making 28 birdies a week. That's just not how I see what he does. Now,
he can't putt that well. He can't make enough putts to shoot 20 under.
Almost like it truly. It's tough. Now, these are good golfers. I have Rose, I have Fleetwood in lineups. Just because they're so good, I think they can overcome it. But naturally, I think this suits maybe not as good overall players, but guys who can rack up, they're going to make a couple doubles, but they make 30 birdies. They'll be just fine.
And that is a couple of more players when we move down into the 9 and 8K. But before we talk about them, I wanted to bring up something that I had kind of witnessed over the last week. The 6 of 6 was 25% last week, and I think there was a lot that goes into that. Before we do, let's talk about Patrick Reed. I think Patrick Reed is setting up to be one of the safer options. We know that he can score and light it up in bunches. One area that he's been struggling is I look at his strokes gained the last 2 weeks, he hasn't putted well, and that's really unlike him, which is maybe a good sign. His irons still are not to a tournament-winning caliber, only about 1.5 last week. You still see him as the safest option outside of Webb this week in this type of field, or are you starting a cash lineup with Fleetwood instead of Reed?
So if I'm playing cash, I would just start with Webb. I just, regardless, even though I'm not playing Webb in tournaments, really, I might have a sliver. In cash, I don't really think there's a need to get crazy. Reed should be fine. I don't love the setup, but he grinds. He's a damn good player. He's crafty around the greens. He's notoriously a good putter. Just get it done. And the top is very difficult. I wish I had a great pivot off Webb where I say I love this guy, smashing him. I don't. I'm using Brooks, Fleetwood, Reed, and Rose in spots. So I don't like Casey. That's about it. And Chad is asking this, and we should get this out of the way. I'm sure you saw the news. I don't even want to call it news that Webb has a rib injury possibly. I literally make nothing of it. I have no idea if it's true or not. Does that alter what you do in any way?
Okay, so here's what we know about it. It was on the First Cut podcast. Mark Immelman described it, and he basically, I guess they were both flying Delta home or whatever, or Delta to this flight, whatever it is. I'm sure they were both in. First class. But anyways, I guess Webb on one of his swings had a rib go knock out of place, and I mean, honestly, if you look at the way Webb swings, that doesn't surprise me. The guy swings with a helicopter in it. So if he was really hurt, I know that he lives on the 8th hole or whatever hole it is.
He lives on the 8th hole.
14th, 13th hole, whatever it is. Whatever hole he lives on it. If he was hurt, he would be sitting or laying in his bed, not playing golf. So it's not going to alter how I'm going to play him. The way I'm going to play him is pretty simple. I'm going to play him in my biggest lineup, and I'm probably going to fade him in GPPs and hope that he comes outside of the top 10. If he comes in 10th, I'm going to win for GPPs. It's a good fade. And I'm also going to benefit in my cash lineup and or my biggest lineup, which you just discussed, because it's a top 10. That'll be a quality for a smaller entry field or a more cash entry field. It's a simple way that I'm playing it. I've done it with Webb for a while, and in this type of situation. Yeah, it was Mark Immelman that discussed it. I'm not really doing much with it.
No, it's...
In fact, Immelman said that he's going to still bet him to win the tournament.
And this is one of these things, if Webb plays bad, everyone will just feel, well, he's clearly hurt. Who knows? That's nothing of value to me. I got enough worry. I doubt it affects his ownership anyway. So that's where we're going. I will say real quick, chat, we're back in business. We got over 250 people in here, only 45 likes. I'm going to pull a Josh Engelman and say, let's see if we can pump that up a little bit.
Smash the likes.
As we get going and get into the non-elite players here. But it's a weird week. I think it's step one. You want to decide what you're doing with Webb, and then you kind of proceed accordingly. If you're using him up top, you deviate with the other 5. If you're not using him up top, then you can kind of go anywhere because a lot of people are.
Yeah, for sure. And before we do our SuperDraft top end review, let's talk a little bit about the thin at 8K and strong at 7K. And I mentioned this at the top, kind of a little tease. 13 golfers in the 9 to 8K section. Problem is, it seems like DraftKings, the way they priced it last week, with a really strong 7K and not a lot of guys in this 9 to 8K range, it's almost like they're pricing it to get the 6 of 6 percentage a little higher. Now, granted, we were way higher last week. I feel like we're doing that again this week. 13 guys versus, I think, 30 plus. Am I looking too far into this, or could DraftKings really be saying, hey, we need to try and get more people engaged throughout the whole week?
I guess there could be something to that. I mean, I don't really think no matter what they do, it's just very difficult. It's probably my biggest pet peeve in all of PGA. I say this all the time, so bear with me, is when people say like, oh man, awful week. I played 10 lineups. I only got 2 6 of 6. And it's like, so you smoked the field. Yeah. 6 of 6 is incredibly difficult. I would imagine it will be like 3 to 5% again this week. Now, if Webb somehow misses the cut, you're talking 0% style, which that's what I hope happens. But listen, it's very tough. You got to play the ownership game in some of these spots, and that's why we're going back to T65, by the way, for anyone wondering. We're back in business.
Yeah, it didn't even matter last week either.
No, it didn't.
T61, of course,
yeah,
right?
It meant absolutely nothing. So it's just gonna be very tricky, and I do think the pricing gives you some spots to attack, but it's not gonna be easy no matter what we do.
Yeah. So chalk is going to be Harris English and Sung Jae Im, which a little bit surprises me.
Shocked.
Take take aside that this name is Jordan Spieth, right? But put Spieth in Im's stats, remove their names, put their stats next to each other, and tell me why one would pick Sung J M over Jordan Spieth right now. Again, take their names out of it here. I'm not saying maybe people should play either, but it just seems like, why is Im 20% and Jordan's 8%?
I'm absolutely one of the most surprised I've been, honestly, all year. Like, I'm not trying to be extreme. I went on multiple shows this week and I said, Sanjay's kind of interesting because no one's going to play him, obviously. And, he's the type of guy who has shown, certainly before the break, he was fantastic. Why is he 20% owned? I don't understand. Listen, that killed my interest. I guess we can get this out of the way right now. I don't want to say absolutely love. I have more Spieth this week than I've had in over a year. I really like the spot for him. It's not even close between him and Sanjay for me. I'm going to Spieth at lower ownership, flat 9K. I think this is a really good spot for him. And if he can just hold it together and avoid those seemingly miserable, sometimes Saturdays, I think we could see his best finish in a really long time.
Yeah, so
get it done, Jordan.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I'll probably still have more ownership than you, and it's going to sound like it's about to sound like I'm not going to play him, but I'll probably still end up with more than you. In any case, the putting has really been confusing to me. If you look at his putting logs, it's been really bad since the Charles Schwab. I mean, he's lost, I think, 5 out of 7 times. No, maybe not that much, but he's like matching the field, which I feel like is a loss.
To me, that's almost. I'll just say this: I kind of view that as a good thing.
The fact that he's making cuts and basically not gaining any strokes putting is not a bad thing.
My biggest problem with Spieth is when people were saying he's getting it together, and I would look at the stats, and he gained 9 strokes putting, and he came in like 12th. And it's just like, that's not getting it together. That's just 9 strokes putting. Here, he's finding the weekend, and he's doing nothing. If his putting comes along and his irons stay, that's the actual combination. Now, does that happen this week? I have no idea, but I'm willing to bet, and at this ownership, that maybe it does.
For the last 4 events, Spieth has definitely gained more strokes on the approach than Brendan Todd.
Well, that's
Brendan Todd, 10% owned. I guess he's not that bad. But a couple of other chalk plays. Billy Horschel's 9,100, similar type player to Spieth. Are you going to Spieth over Horschel, or is Horschel a big part of your core this week?
No, I'm going to Spieth over all these guys.
Overall, okay.
All of them, not even close. I do have some Billy Ho just because he does make cuts, and I didn't want to fade. I didn't get to Harris English much, if at all, and I didn't want to have no English, no Billy Ho. That just seemed like too much leverage. You don't want to be that radical unless you really don't like the plays. So I kind of mitigated Billy Ho, under on English, over on Spieth. Brendan Todd is so far off my radar. If I built 1,000 teams, I wouldn't play him. I can't play a guy who's gaining 8 strokes putting every week.
I understand you've been pretty steadfast about this. There's no doubt about it.
Like, what?
Yeah, definitely some differences throughout the industry on Im's ownership, but I tend to always lean with our guy Alex. He's normally right on it, and Sanjay's the odds would correlate to that ownership. So I'll probably go with it there. Justin Rose just had a question. I'm playing Rose and Spieth in the same lineup. It's one of my most important lineups of the week. I love building with them. I like the fact that they're playing together again. They both got themselves through the cut last week playing together. I like the fact that they both kind of get hot making putts. I mean, they can light it up in a hurry and kind of feed off each other there. Hopefully, Brooks Koepka doesn't drag them down. But are you playing Justin Rose? And if you had to go Rose or Spieth, who would you take there?
Yeah, just got that question from Chad, and I responded in chat, and what I wrote doesn't even make sense. So let me actually explain it. Okay. Yeah, I'm definitely playing both of them. Spieth is cheaper, so I'm finding spots where I can get to him a little easier. He's a great second man in with any of those guys, whereas Rose is in like a weird spot where he's an aggressive second man or he's an easy first man in. I like them both. Rose has the combination that I want, irons and putting. Yeah. I don't see any reason why he can't keep his putting going. He's just a good player, so no problem with either of them.
Yeah, so when Rose first came back, the first 2 weeks, his irons looked great, and then he kind of went through a 2-week lull, maybe even a 3-week lull, but irons bounced back really nicely last week. His off the tee wasn't great last week, but we're going to come to Sedgefield here, and Rose might not miss a fairway all week if he puts it in there. So I'm definitely interested in Justin Rose and Jordan Spieth this week. Okay, so let's move into the high 7K chalk since I mentioned it's pretty strong up there. And then we will move on to our SuperDraft top end segment review. 7K chalk, Joaquin Niemann, Russell Henley, Doc Redman, JT Poston, Corey Connors. All looking like, and Corey Connors is 8, all looking like 12 to 15%, maybe just below on Poston, the defending champion. Of those 5, are you playing any or are you fading them all?
Oh, no, I like – this is a good range.
Yeah.
I think you can make a case for a bunch of these guys. For me, I'll start with Niemann. Pure scorer, good with the irons, figuring it out. He's won at Greenbrier. Price is reasonable. No problem with him. I don't know. Did you say Henley? Is he in this bunch?
Yeah, I put him in this bunch. I think he's going to be like 12 to 15%. Yeah.
I mean, you could argue striking it better than literally anyone with the irons. He goes to Bermuda. The price is reasonable. The only knock on him, and I know this sounds ridiculous, is that it's Russell Henley. And he just seemingly in spots like this lets you down. But you have to kind of ignore that and go for it. The other guys, I don't hate by any stretch, but you have to have a priority list. You can't play everyone. And for me, Niemann, Henley, Fratelli, who's going to be lower owned, are above Poston, Redman, Connors.
Poston for me is
you mentioned him the other week, and you were ahead of the curve on him, rounding into form a little.
He is, but the problem, I love him coming back to Bermuda greens. I think obviously it seems to be his more ideal thing. He won here last year. The difference is between this year and last year is within 3 or 4 starts of his win, he gained more than 3 strokes on his approaches twice in the previous 4 starts to his win last year. He hasn't gained on his approaches at all. Not one tournament since being back. That's what makes me nervous. He was in my biggest lineup, and then when I look deeper in, I'm like, looking at it, I have to take Doc Redman over JT Poston in this exact scenario because Redman's approaches and his putter have both looked good over the last 4 weeks. If I put that matchup in front of you, would you lean towards Redman here, or do you think the course history and Poston is enough to put them basically equal?
No, I can't. Listen, you need to gain significantly on the approaches here. Like you're not going to be able to do that. Poston, if he plays well, will turn his irons around. I'm not going to bank on that. It's been too long. Yep. So I would go Redman. I do want to say, friend of the show, Benny Mack, appreciate the super chat. Niemann and Stallings, he's got a question for us. Niemann and Stallings or Billy Ho and either Munoz or Wes Bryant. For me, it would be Billy Ho and one of those punts. Either of them. I like Munoz, and I think you can make a case for Wes.
So I would ask Benny, that's a great question. I would go with Billy Ho and one of those 2 guys. He said Mark Hubbard for the win also there. Why wouldn't he throw Mark Hubbard?
Yeah, maybe go for Hubbard.
Unless Hubbard's already in it. If Hubbard's already in the lineup, Sebastian Munoz's ball striking has actually shown to be pretty good. His putting has been horrific lately. So if you want to go with a guy that's a better putter and look good with his approaches, go with Wes Bryant. I have him in an important lineup this week. I do have Sebastian Munoz in my player pool. So definitely would lean the latter there. I think Billy Ho is a good play. So a great question there. I like those. So last one here. Christian Bezuidenhout before we go into our top end and our make the cut. Bezuidenhout, I'm in on. He's got exactly what you just said, Ben. Putting in approach. Twice he's gained more than 2.5 strokes on his approach in the last 4 weeks. Last 3 weeks, last 4 weeks. Yeah, back to Memorial. And twice he's gained more than 2 strokes putting. So good match. I think he's got lower ownership, maybe sub 10%. I think it's a good pivot off of. I like Russell Henley too, but I think it's good pivot off the chalk there. At least it looks like half the ownership.
Yeah, I actually think it is too. And this is something I'm going to have to revisit in my own lineups. Bezuidenhout, good player. He has a glaring weakness off the tee. And this course has shown time and time again, it's good for guys that have that weakness. Like you can get by being bad off the tee here. You club down, you keep it in the fairway, lean on your irons, lean on your putting. That's what he does. So I get it. It's just a priority thing for me. I'm going to try to probably get him into some lineups as that pivot, especially where I don't think I have enough leverage.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. So, okay, let's go on to our super draft top end review segment where we just review some of the top end guys in their multiplier. But before we do, let's tell you a little bit about our fantasy football kit that we've got going on here.
Oh yeah,
incredible! It's listen, I've got like 6 or 7 home leagues, and if I don't get this, I'm going to be totally screwed. All I've been doing is golf recently. So we here at Awesemo are excited to bring you the inaugural season long fantasy football and basketball draft kit using the same tools that have helped make Alex Awesemo Baker the #1 daily fantasy sports player in the country, or world, I should say. We've compiled a package that will revolutionize the way you prepare for fantasy football drafts for only $29.95. Our draft kit includes everything you need to prep, including rankings, projections, sleeper tools, loads of content from our expert, and the Draft Wingman, which will update team projections in real time based on players you have already drafted. And, Ben, they get something else too, don't they?
They do. Yeah. So as a bonus, new members of the FFPC, your home for pay-to-play season-long fantasy football leagues and contests, get a $35 credit when you sign up for the Awesemo Draft Kit. So it basically makes it free when you think about it. So come on in, dominate fantasy, best ball, all that stuff. We saw DK getting involved. It's a new thing. We've worked really, guys behind the scenes, done a ton of effort to make that page look really good. So come check it out, and we do hope you buy the package. Also want to say, actually a perfect time. Spin, who is a friend of the show and just made a super chat, he is one of the many people behind the paywall. That's why you should join Awesemo Plus. One of the sharp members there. We have 1 million people talking golf, talking NBA, MLB, MMA, everything you want. So if you haven't joined, awesemo.com/join. We've got 1 million different packages from weekly to monthly to annual. We do appreciate the super chat, and we appreciate chat hitting the like button, as I say during this show. But where are we going now? Are we on the
yeah, we're on the SuperDraft top end review segment.
Okay.
Yeah. Which I just got to say, the chat is just totally trolling me now, telling me that I'm kind of like against Spieth this week, that he's going to win, and he probably will now.
Spieth is going to play well. Listen, I am no fan of Jordan Spieth. Not that I don't like him, but I bet Spieth this week. I am significantly over in all facets. He's going to be all right this week. I have a good feeling about this.
All right. He just got 20% more from me, probably. All right. Anyway, speaking of Spieth, 1.15x on DraftKings. On SuperDraft, compared to his DraftKings salary of $9,000. Not bad. Pretty good. Priced right around Harris English and Billy Horschel. So he did kind of stick out for me. We know Spieth loves to make birdies, and the more birdies he gets at that 1.15x multiplier, it's going to make that Webb Simpson and Tommy Fleetwood 1x just look silly by the end of it. Anybody else stick out to you? Joaquin Niemann is at 1.2, as is Shane Lowry.
Yeah, I mean, this is a week, like you said, scoring is going to be so up. Even a 1.1 is going to make a big difference. So like someone like Rose, he's a 1.1, Spieth 1.15. I wouldn't mind starting with those guys, and then you're going to have 1 million opportunities as we work down, the 1.4, 1.5 guys. To really rack up the points with the multiplier mode. So I'm with you there. I have no problem with those guys in this format.
Yeah, and of course, if you really want to get sick and crazy and twisted like me, you can roster Akshay Bhatia at 1.65x, but we'll talk about him a little later on in the show. So let's go to our Make the Cut segment. This is a fun one, and this is one where if you guys have anybody that you want to have our opinion on, a quick 10-second elevator speech, this is a great segment to do it. So got a question from Lalani Plays. Is Spieth's accuracy off the tee getting better? That's what seemed to kill him last year. While it's maybe not getting better, it's because last week he had 25%. It seems like when he decides what shot he wants to hit, he can do it. But that's the problem. He seems like he's fighting what shot type he wants to hit off the tee. So it's not really getting that much better. So all right, let's start off with the Make the Cut segment. I see Rory Sabatini in there. He will definitely get it. But let's kick it off with Tom Lewis and Charles Howell III. Actually, Sabatini's third on there. So there's the three to start it. Lewis, Howell, Sabatini.
Sabatini's getting through. I think he's a reasonable cash play. Not a super interesting play, but I do think he gets through. Tom Lewis, as you've talked about 1 million times, is the most boom-bust guy maybe out there. We saw at the WGC why he needs all 4 rounds. I'm going to say he gets clipped. He's very erratic. He could be leading after 2 rounds, but he also could be towards the back of the pack. I have really no opinion on CH3 this week. Don't really like him, though.
Yeah, it was a scoring event for the most part, I guess, at the 3M, and he did pretty well. So he's getting the player pool, but nothing serious for me. Tom Lewis can definitely light it up on the greens, but maybe, he's had a good run of form here. Missed the cut at the PGA last week. Maybe that run of form is a little bit over. So got Tom Lewis maybe packing his bags early. Charles Howell I got going through, and I've got Rory Sabatini sneaking through as well. Next 3 guys, 2 of the 3 are in big lineups for me, so I hope you're going to tell me they're going to make it through the weekend. It's Matthias Schwab, Mateus Schwab. Sorry, I lost my place. There we go.
Matt Wallace.
Matt Wallace and Charles Schwartzel. Sorry about that.
Good.
Yep.
Interesting names. We got a international flavor. Listen, Schwab is someone, as you know, I'm a huge fan. I really played him a lot over in Europe. He's come over here and he's gotten in the mix. He was a really, popular pick at Barracuda to win the event. He got in the mix there. I do think he makes the weekend. Matt Wallace, I don't really I picture him more at hard courses, I'll be honest. I know he can go low, but this is not really a spot for him. Charles made a nice putt on Friday to make the weekend. His driver is weak, and that's not a bad thing here per se. I think he'll find his way in, but I don't have a ton of interest at the same time.
Yeah, so Matt Wallace, I think, is a great point. Typically on hard golf courses, you can get by with bad irons, right? Because not everybody's hitting the green. It's just a tougher golf course where you don't need to make as many birdies. So even if you're not hitting the green and you have a good around the green game, you can get by. That's exactly what he did at Memorial. He lost strokes on the approach, gained putting, gained around the green. Tough golf course. He comes in the top 5 or whatever it is. This at 20 under, you have to have good irons. You have to hit good iron shots. And if he's not going to do it, I don't see him getting through the weekend. I think that he packs his bag, and that run of form is over a little bit. Henrik Norlander, this year's Jason Kokrak. Oh, I do think Schwartzel gets through. He's the other one where he's actually a guy that can light it up. I just hope I'm not late on him 2 rounds ago, or 2 tournaments ago, I should say, the top 5. Do you think maybe I'm late on him, or is there some left in the tank?
So the thing that's kind of good about Charles is that nobody really had him there. And it's not like ownership is caught up. Like he'll be a little more popular, but it's not like Charles chalk and you miss the boat. Kind of like Norlander, who we're about to talk about, where he had been playing really well and now people know about it. So I don't worry if you want to play Charles. It's just evaluating what you think you can do. Norlander, I think he makes the weekend. I don't love the play. I will say those guys' irons are the strength of his game. The putting will regress at times, but he can carry himself with the approach.
Yeah, totally agree. So a couple of more guys that I got on my list. We're getting some good ones from chat as well. Patrick Rogers, he's 7,700 this week. Great putter, man. Does he see it the weekend? Yeah.
Like what? I have no, maybe, but he's not a priority. He's an anomaly because he was a horrible putter for a long time, and now he's only a putter. He's not Denny McCarthy, but he's close. I don't think he makes the weekend. No, you got to be better with the ball striking.
Yeah, I agree. Brian Harmon led the field in birdies a couple of weeks ago, found the weekend again last week.
Brian Harmon, he already did what you needed to do here when I think, what was that, the 3M? Yeah.
Yeah, 24
birdies and a couple of eagles. That'll play.
That's what we need this week. Let's get it again.
He can get crazy hot. He's shown that. He's a good Bermuda guy. I think he's worth having some exposure in a large field tournament, stuff like that, but not a core play by any stretch.
Okay. Let's see. Lucas Glover, he's at 7,300, right in this price range we are talking about.
This is a guy I want to hear your thoughts on as well. So he's shown abilities, but he's another one, we know he's going to strike it well. It's not a great putter, and that's being really generous. What do you make of him? Because he's with Chris Kirk and Norlander at that $7,300 tag.
He's in that weird kind of same boat as Harris English, I think, that have made a lot of cuts here, but they don't have any top 25s, I think, or any top 10s. One of those stats that I know I wrote. And that's probably due to the fact that they are both good iron players, but Glover is not a good putter. You just mentioned it. Last week, he was so bad around the greens, but everything else looked okay. Yeah, the form has come down since the Rocket Mortgage, really, where he came out the first 4 weeks fire with his irons, and that's kind of cooled off a little bit. So I'm not as high on Glover. I mean, he was just 9,000 plus in chalk at the 3M. So yeah, I guess the boat is leaving him pretty quickly, huh? I'll probably leave him out. Seb Straka, Scott Stallings. You can just give me a yes or no on those two guys real quick.
I'll say Stallings keeps this ridiculous streak alive of coming in 60th.
Yep.
No to Straka, though.
Okay. Brian Stewart. I'm going to bounce around a little bit. Brian Stewart, Austin Cook, and Sam Ryder. Little interest in Austin Cook. I always have interest in Brian Stewart. Sam Ryder, probably not for me.
Yeah, I mean, so I don't think you want to take too many guys from down there, because you got to be careful. But in theory, Austin Cook fits this course. Stewart is a guy who can get hot on Bermuda. If you're being aggressive, you can use them, but be careful because we mentioned Munoz. There are a couple other guys that I like down there as well. You don't want to have 15 guys at 6,500 because some of them are going to get through, but most of them are not, and that's where it gets dangerous.
Totally agree. Two guys that certainly can put the long ball in play, which may not be the best suited for this week, but still talented players, Luke List and Sam Burns. I think both of them get through, by the way.
I hope so.
Yeah.
List is really important for me this week. He's on a couple key teams. He struck it absolutely beautiful on fire at the PGA. He lost 8 strokes putting, and that is the only reason he came in 51st.
He had another week where it could have been back-to-back PGAs with top 10s. I mean,
he was there.
8 strokes putting, awful, just too bad.
Remember we talked about the Shinnecock connection. Brooks, DJ, and him were in an alternate universe up there. But
and they all were for a time. I'm in List. I think Burns makes the weekend, but the form is definitely cooled off. He didn't even have that good of a Barracuda, which is a similar, again, type of, I think, style of play. So think about on him. Bud Cauley, one of the guys that we always talk about, you cannot play forever. Is he making the field for you this week?
I don't really have much. He's just, listen, I'm not saying I'm just like cutting ties and I'm never going to play Bud Cauley again, but I try to be objective where, you can't just blindly play a guy over and over. I thought he was trending upward, possibly going to break through. He's still making cuts here and there. So, I don't mind going to him in a pinch, but hasn't shown much upside, and I'm not sure that changes.
Okay, got a couple of more guys here. Pat Perez, we were just asked about. Denny McCarthy and William Gordon.
Okay, here we go. So Denny McCarthy is he is a true anomaly. He's going to gain with the putter. We basically know that. It's not a good ball striker. I get why you'd want to go there, but I'm not going to. It's not even chasing putting. I just can't do it. Pat Perez, I think, is totally fine. Makes the cut. I'm not talking about Will Gordon. That guy. Go ahead.
All right. So here's what we know about him is that he can score, and we know he's a good player. He just came in third at at River Highlands there, a similar par 70 setup, a shorter course where maybe driver is the best club in his bag, but it's not. Maybe it's the putter. We don't really know enough. So we got him cheap, of course, at TVC River Highlands at Travelers. Then he jumped up in price, and I played him, and a bunch of people played him. Now we get him back down to 6,800. So do I think he's going to make the weekend? I do. He just made it to the Barracuda, so I think form is close with him. But at 6,800, I don't feel like there's a ton of risk going there. He's in one important lineup for me, not the biggest, and I'll probably have him 15 or 20% in GPPs. So yeah, I do think he does make the weekend. Here, a couple of more names. Adam Schenk has been brought up to me a couple of times this week, and Mark Hubbard and Bryce Garnett. All of them have been brought up multiple times this week to me. So of those three, you playing all? You playing any?
Playing Schenk. I have Garnett as well. The third name I already forgot, so I don't think I'm playing him. I'll say this again. These guys make sense, but you have to prioritize. Because we just talked about a bunch of guys at 66. These guys are at 67. Brendan just mentioned Chesson Hadley is down there as well. It's getting quick, fast. You don't need 30 guys below 6K. So these guys are viable in a field with this bad with win equity this wide open, but try to really make sure you have priorities and you're not just spraying and praying.
Yeah, spraying and praying. I like that.
Story of my life, but still.
Yeah, Keith Mitchell has found some form. He's won on a par 70 before, granted, a par 70 that was going to give us a winner of -9 or 10 at the Honda Classic at the PGA National compared to -25 at Sedgefield. But can Keith Mitchell go out here and compete this week?
Killer Keith, Kenny, I mean, he's shown when he gets going, he's got serious upside, but I did not get to him. I went to the guys we just talked about. And yeah, disrespect by me. Mark Hubbard, I do like him. That's the name I forgot, but I am not playing him.
Yeah, Homeless Hubs. Yeah, that was just some total disrespect there.
Yeah, that's poor effort. I like Hubbard in life.
Yeah. Actually, Hubbard he had that missed cut. It's a withdrawal, but it was a missed cut at the Memorial. But everything else has looked pretty good. I'm not going to lie. 6,700. So I think he could creep up in ownership. Another guy that's going to creep up there in ownership a little bit and maybe warranted. I really like what Wes Bryan is doing with his starts from the major medical. He's only competing in fields in which the driver doesn't matter. I mean, if you look at it, in reality, it's really smart. I kind of wish, maybe even Jordan Spieth would take this approach a little bit. Travelers, you don't need a driver. RBC, you could hit a 6-iron off every tee. And at the Rocket Mortgage, you can't really miss fairways there. Again, here this week, it's a par 70. Fairways on the easier side to hit at like 65%, something like that. So it's a good spot for him. I'm not going to lie. The approaches have looked great.
Yeah, listen, I was Brian in the player pool. He was hurt. Tim talked on the show yesterday, and he made a great case for him. He was hurt last year, obviously. He took a full year off, and now we're seeing a guy that we knew he could play, and he's showing that. His driver's weak, and it's going to be weak, but this course doesn't really expose that. So in the pool, you've got Peter Uihlein is down there, who's a dark horse of mine. Russell Knox is down there, who I think is towards the back of the pack. But just, again, there's a lot of names. Wesley Bryan's another one we now have talked about.
Yeah, for sure. Sebastian Munoz, I mentioned to you briefly, his ball striking has picked up. He finally made a cut at the Memorial a couple weeks ago. Does he make the weekend and or your player pool?
Yeah, he's towards when we're talking about these 6K guys, I think he's towards the top for me. Bermuda guy, playing a little better, and he's shown that this is the type of event that he really kind of excels at. So no problem with him.
Yeah, 6 straight starts to when we came back from the hiatus where he gained on his approaches. He lost for the first time at the PGA last week. Tougher obviously setup than what he faced. But like you said, kind of like him for these events rather than a major. Russell Knox.
This guy.
He gained 3.5 strokes ball striking at the 3M, but lost 6 strokes putting. 6 strokes in 2 days. That is an impressive feat, but something that Russell Knox has also done at the Pebble Beach, also at the PGA last year. Is this guy going to make the weekend or your player pool?
Well, that would break, on measured events. He hasn't made a cut in about, it feels like 6 months. He did make the cut at Barracuda, though. That is not shown in the strokes gain data, but he came in 25th.
Oh, yeah, that is a pop-up. Yeah.
I think that's something. I mean, when you're looking at a guy who's missed that many in a row, seeing any life is a positive. Yeah. So
yeah, totally agree.
I don't think it's that crazy, to be honest.
I don't think it's that crazy for him to make the weekend. Totally agree. I think these greens are relatively easy. The Donald Ross, once you get on them, and they're pretty easy to get on, I'm not going to lie. Christopher Kirk was just asked on us. He's popped up a couple of times in the last 9 weeks. Does he make the weekend? I
think Kirk's fine. Listen, you're really evaluating him against Norlander. And Glover. That's the real test. I have it pretty close, to be honest. I mean, he won a Korn Ferry event earlier in the year, but it's hard to separate. For me, Luke List over all of them, to be honest.
Jim Furyk just won a Champions Tour event. A bunch Colin Montgomery and alike.
Yep, that's real good.
Is he going to make the weekends here? I think, is he a former winner? Maybe not a winner here.
Probably.
He's done so. He probably has one here, actually, now that I think about it. He's been around for a while. Does he make the weekend here on the PGA Tour, or should he be playing on the Champions Tour?
No, he should be playing on the Champions Tour. Listen, Furyk, he does what he does. You don't need length here, but he has shown nothing. Literally nothing all year. I know he's got the pedigree, but nope, not for me.
Yeah, workday. He had about 3.2 putting and another 4 on the approaches. So if he match that, he'll definitely get through the weekend. Not gonna lie there, but don't love him at 7,200. If he was 6,500, I'd be a lot more interested. I'm not gonna lie. Cameron Cut, content sweat making machine. Is he going to have a cut sweat, or is he going to get through in a breeze?
I mean, it's never easy with that guy. I think he can find the weekend. Not really looking at, we talked about a lot of flyers here. There's not a lot of safety for obvious reasons in these ranges. You're really just looking for those flyers to match up with the big names in the high 7s, the low 8s, and of course the big top tier. So I'll say Cam can make the weekend, but not a huge fan.
So we didn't talk about Ches Reavie and Stephen Bray. It's a great point. I forgot to bring up about him and maybe even Kevin Kisner and Ryan Moore. I might have skipped. I might have skipped a couple of guys in the eights, but we got a couple of minutes to go back there. Ches Reavie. Here's my thing about Ches. I think I've been pretty consistent. And Ben, you can probably say what I'm about to because I've said it a couple of times. When Ches is in form, I play him. When Ches gets knocked off the train, I'm out. He got knocked off the train last week at the PGA. I'm out now. At 8,400, I think it's an easy fade for me. At this point, he's not a value play for me anymore. I'm fine fading him. I'd rather go to Kevin Kisner, who's going the other way. We saw maybe a peak in Ches Reavie. I don't think we saw a peak in Kevin Kisner. I'm in for sure on Kisner. You echo those same thoughts, or are you going the other way?
Absolutely. We saw Ches peak at WGC. He easily could. I'm not even joking. He could have won. He gained 12 strokes tee to green at St. Jude, and he lost 5 putting, including a missed 3-footer on Sunday for a streak, which still pains me. A major, I don't hold that against him, but the secret's out on Ches, and although he should be fine, I'm not sure how often fading him really results in you getting smoked. So I went elsewhere as well.
Yep, I totally agree. In fact, I went right to Kisner. Not going to lie to you. Okay, we'll do 2 more in this section before we go on to our hot takes. Maybe a couple more deep dives. Just want to make sure I got everybody. Kisner wins. Chase Seifert, we were just asked about, had a couple of other people in the industry love that play. I got to say, Ben, I think you were first on him here. You brought him up to me like 7 weeks ago. Then 2 weeks later, the workday, he popped off. Does he pop off again?
No. I'm a Chase Seifert guy. This is not the spot for him, in my opinion. I get how people are getting there because you look at his irons, he's popped a little putting, but at the same time, the stats, they're not blowing me away. The results aren't really blowing me away. He's not going to be, when I was trying to play him, he was legitimately like 0.1% owned. He's not going to be that here. So it's a flyer and I get it, but all those other guys in the 6s we talked about, I like more.
Adam Long comes out of nowhere sometimes.
Occasionally.
Not gonna lie. Not a bad spot for him. He didn't look that bad last week at the PGA either. I don't mind him. I think he might be a late add to my player pool here this week.
Yeah, I mean, I get how you're getting there, Adam Long. He's actually been low-key super impressive. He was the type of guy, when he won, I was just like, you will literally never hear this guy's name again. He's going to be like Martin Traynor.
Yeah.
And then he came in second at OHL. Then he came in second at the 3M just a couple weeks ago. He has shown the ability to stay relevant. So are you going to get a lot of bad performances mixed in between those? Yeah.
Definitely.
But that's with everyone down there. So at least he's shown he can do it.
Yeah, definitely agree. Sergio, I'm out on it. I don't think he can make enough putts this week to win.
His putting last week was extra egregious. It's weird because his strength is off the tee, and we talked about how that's not an real asset. It's good, of course, it never hurts, but I'm using him just on name recognition and pedigree. Like, I think he's better than most in this field. So that's what got me to him in some capacity.
Yeah, he is better than some people in the field. I guess I'd rather spend the 500. If it was between Spieth and Garcia, I'd rather go to Spieth. I don't know why.
But I like him over Ches. I like him over Sanjay. I like him over Lowry.
Lowry is. I think I'm probably close on the Lowry one, but I think I'd put Kisner above all of them. If you want to go there. Okay. All right. Last one that I see here. I'm sorry if I missed any. I think I got most of the ones in the chat though. Last one we will do is Joseph Bramlett.
No.
Okay. I don't think so either.
That's too crazy. I leave that to Soup Mafia and whoever likes Joseph Bramlett. I don't even know where he's priced. Where is he?
He's like 6,900.
60. Yeah. He's with Knox and Shank and.
Oh, actually, I got one more. Sorry, I lied to you. The guy that showed us his best impression of a Keegan last week. On a negative note, on a positive note, he was just awarded the Payne Stewart Award last night. And it was a really cool little video where they kind of, Payne Stewart's kids and Jay Monahan kind of bombarded him. And I'm talking about Zach Johnson. who probably earned it at this point. 45 years old. The guy has been around. He is a pretty quality character, at least double major winner as well. So definitely heading towards a Hall of Fame career. Does he make the weekend? His play has been getting a little better.
No. He has been playing a little better, but he kind of reminds, it's like Furyk, where I get it, and he like destroys the JDC, which I do think correlates in some capacity, but give me Aaron Wise if I had to, as crazy as that sounds.
Sure. Okay, let's go into our deep dives here in our hot takes. I mean, we did talk about a lot of these guys below 7K this week. There's just a lot of guys in the field over 100 or close to it that are priced there. So maybe we've already done a couple of our deep dives. So let's go to our hot takes. I'll go first. I think if it's going to happen, it's going to happen here at a course where driving really doesn't matter. It's Christian Bezuidenhout. I believe he gets in the top 10 this week. I really think this is the spot for him to do it.
That's a good one. I like that. And listen, I mean, this is the type of event. If you told me a first-time winner appears, I wouldn't even be remotely shocked. We could see any of these guys come out. What am I going to say here? Oh, boy. I'm not going to say that Spieth wins because that's just a little too crazy. I'm going to, I'll pump it up a little bit. I mentioned Uline on my tweet that I've been putting out every week.
Yeah.
I'm going to give Peter Uline some love here. He's a guy he's an Oklahoma State guy, hasn't been getting a ton of starts. He's been making some cuts here. He's 14th at Charles Schwab, 35th last week at Barracuda. He makes a lot of birdies. His weak link is off the tee. He's a good putter. This is a good course for him. So at 6,500, if you really want like a 1%er, I'm going to go there. I'm going to say he's very live. I'm going to give him I'll give him a top 10. What do I care? That's pretty regressive. A little scorching hot coming out of Wyndham here. But you know what? It's the last week before the FedEx Cup. We got to get the people riled up before the playoffs. You know what I mean?
Yeah, we do. Peter Uline. I mean, listen, also to throw a top 20 bet on him there, he's probably like 7-1 to do that.
Yeah, you're probably getting some nice you never know Peter U.
Yeah, I like it, though. All right, so let's finish up the show. Last couple of minutes, we're going to turn over to SuperDraft, the sponsor of our show. We want to thank them again for that, where we go over the bottom end of the multiplier, give some plays there. So, okay, now we'll talk for like 10 seconds about Akshay Bhatia, the 19-year-old professional. He was just played in North Carolina in the minor league tour and won by 4 last week. So if you're going to want to play him just to be like, hey, maybe he'll make a cut this week, 1.65x on SuperDraft. But if you want a little bit more serious play, a guy that did show form a couple of weeks ago, Doug Ghim, 1.6x. He's a guy that we know has some talent, but has yet to manifest. Lucky thing for him, though, Ben, is he doesn't have to worry about the top 125 after this because they're guaranteed status for next year. So while he's probably not going to make the playoffs, we know that he's going to play next year. So Doug Ghim at 1.6x was my go-to. Last one, Siwoo Kim, 8,600 on DraftKings, 1.45x here on SuperDraft. I expect him high-owned, but you can't not like the spot at 1.45.
So I'll add to that. Chris Kirk is 1.55.
Oh, nice.
He's in a $7,300 golfer on DraftKings at 1.55. He's with Vince Whaley, just guys that are basically the min. I think he'll have some ownership like you just talked about with some of those other guys, but that's hard to ignore. I mean, if he makes the cut at 1.55x, even if he gives you like a top 20, he could outscore the winner at that. So keep that in mind when you're going. You mentioned Siwoo. He's with Grayson. Like, come on, that's a really good price on a guy who's 8,600 over on DraftKings.
You know who's another guy that can absolutely light it up in his 1.5x, and he can get so hot with the putter. That's why I think I like him on SuperDraft, is Patton Kizzire, who's also brought up in our chat. I don't think we got to him. William Gordon also at 1.5x. But Patton Kizzire, if you're going to use him, then for his putting, 1.55x seems like a pretty good spot to do so. Or 1.5x, sorry.
The multiplier mode makes it so if these guys make the cut, the amount of points that they can score with those type of bonuses is just immense. And even though Patton Kizzire really struggles, this is a guy that has shown, kind of like Adam Long, except he did it like in a row. He can get crazy hot. He can compete in weak fields. So if you're opening it up on SuperDraft and you're really going for the win, you can take some guys with big time multipliers and feel pretty good this week.
Yeah, one of those guys like Ryan Armour is also down there at 1.45. Russell Henley, who we've talked about, 1.4x. Taking advantage of some of these where you see they're higher priced on DraftKings or FanDuel and seeing that they have a high multiplier. Again, I really think it's a good spot for them to do. Doc Redmond, 1.35x, the same multiplier as Keith Mitchell, and yet their differential in price throughout the industry is much higher than that. So just a couple of guys that I like down there. So, all right, before we get on out of here, Ben, why don't we tell the people what we got coming up on tap? I know we got the FedEx Cup playoffs, and the major is not too far behind it.
Never ends. I literally never ends. Listen, after this FedEx Cup, then the season starts. I know that sounds ridiculous considering what we're doing, but all the majors are rolling around. The Masters, the US Open, that's in 2020. It's just in the winter. So golf is not going to end, of course. On the other side, as you guys know, the bubble with the NBA playoffs are starting, baseball in full swing, MMA, NASCAR, and we are inside a month for football. It doesn't feel it, but it's the time. This is.
Wait. I got one more thing. Sorry, because I know you at least take a look through the odds. We got the Celtic Manor Open or the Celtic Open. I think it's
the Euro,
but I think it's played at the It's the Wales Open or something. Played in whatever. Anyways, it's a decent field over there. Guido Migliozzi is a guy that has a ton of talent that hasn't played well this year. He's at 7,400 on DraftKings. I don't mind that play there. And Minwoo Lee at 8,400. I just think those guys have a ton of talent. We may see them over here eventually. I like to play talent on the Euro Tour, and when the talent hits, I normally have a good week. So those are my two guys. Did you take a look at that field at all, or anybody you'd want to throw out there for a bet?
I bet Detry, who's one of the favorites.
Yeah.
That's a guy that, similar to Schwab, I think there will be a time where Thomas Detry is over here. Because Thomas Peters, he's also there, but I don't know what happened to Thomas Peters.
What is he playing this week? Finally, is that what I saw?
I believe he's in the field over there, but I thought he would be in the field here permanently because he was really good at one point.
Yeah, Sean Crocker is another guy just brought up by Slim Brody in our chat that I love to play. He's on my one lineup this week that I did over there, just did a single entry. So, okay, yeah, we get the FedEx Cup playoffs coming up, and we've got two majors coming up after that, so we are not going anywhere. So make sure you give us a couple of likes on your way out so that we know we can keep the lights on here, and, of course, thanks to SuperDraft for doing that. So until next time, everybody, until next week, we've got the Northern Trust, the last full field for 2 weeks is we got 125 players, then we go down to 70, and then 30. So our last full field for a couple of weeks after that. And so until next time, everybody, we'll see you on the other side. Cheers.
Good luck.